We're talking peppers today with Debbie Flower, our favorite retired horticultural college professor. And Debbie, people are losing blossoms on their pepper plants. John writes in, we don't know where John is writing from. People, if you send us an email, tell us where you live because all gardening is local. Thank you very much. John writes in and says, when those pepper flowers are open, I pollinate by hand, and sometimes as I'm brushing the flower, it falls off. My first guess is that I'm overwatering them. Please give me your opinion.
If he's guessing he's overwatering, then I think he should look into that first. Figure out, how deeply his water is penetrating into his soil. Potentially he should put some water less often and put some mulch on top of the soil so he can water even less often than that. But you're right, we don't know where he's from, and that makes it somewhat difficult to answer his question. But there are some real basic things that cause peppers to drop their flowers. And in order for them to form fruit, they have to first have a flower. The flower has to be pollinated, which means pollen has to enter the stigmatic surface. These are, technical names you don't really need to know, but pollen has to move from the anther to the stigmatic surface, travel down there, unite with the ovum in that flower, and form a baby, basically. And the baby is the fruit that we eat. The pollination, peppers are generally self-pollinating. They do benefit from having a pollinator, a thing that brings the pollen from one flower to another one. And that's the job that John was tasking himself with by doing the pollination. The three things that I think of that come to mind why those flowers would fall off would be that they're not getting pollinated. Actually, there's four things. They're not getting pollinated, which is kind of actually really temperature dependent. And that's one of the four things. Temperature. They grow best, they pollinate best, they make fruit best between the temperatures of 58 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's a very nice range, but unpracticable. Right. Unpractical.
Right. Impractical?
Thank you. That's the word.
Yes. And also if night times get temperatures stay above 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which happens in humid temperate zone places. So sometimes it would happen, let's say in New Jersey when I lived there, then they will not pollinate the flowers. So they are very temperature dependent. And that's very common in many of the things that we grow in the vegetable garden, that the setting of these fruit, the pollination and the setting of the fruit is very much temperature dependent. If the temperature's wrong, if the pollen is not moving for some reason, if there's too much nitrogen fertilizer in the soil, nitrogen is for green growth, and that if there's too much of it compared to other nutrients in the soil, then the plant will stop making fruit and revert to just becoming a nice big bushy green thing. And the other is irregular watering, which is too much or too little watering.
Well, that's three things.
Well, the fourth one was the pollination, but you're right, it's really part of the temperature. Yeah.
Okay, can I add another? They
are self-pollinating. Sure.
I can add another one, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Is the plant getting sun or is it in full shade?
Oh, good point. Good point. Yes, they do need sun to grow, and without it, they won't. If you've ever had a plant that flowers and you plant it in a shady spot in the yard, you don't get flowers.
Yeah.
They just don't produce enough energy in the green parts of the plant in order to produce the flower. Flowers and fruit, in most cases, do not make their own food. And peppers, sweet peppers, are often green when we eat them. Those are actually unripe peppers. If you leave a pepper on the plant, it will change color to yellow and then to red, although there are varieties that will change to other colors like purple and orange.
And they get sweeter.
And they get sweeter, yes. And the pepper gets a little bit softer as well. At that point, when it's green, it will make some food, but not enough to support itself. So that pepper, that fruit, and that flower, which is white, are relying on the green parts of the plant to feed it so that it can grow, so that it can exist. And if the plant is, for any reason, unable to make enough food to support this additional structure, then it'll drop the structure to save the rest of the plant.
So it isn't a case of John. He mentions brushing the flower. He's not brushing it so hard he's knocking the flower off. That flower was ready to fall off. That's
what I'm assuming. Flowers and fruit are typically hard to remove if they're not ready to come off. That's a good test for like fruit trees. If you can't remove the peach easily, then the peach is probably not completely ripe yet.
If the flower can pollinate itself, I would think there would have to be some sort of momentum, if you will, to move that pollen from within the flower. It's not a case of having to move the pollen from one flower to another flower. That single flower has both the male and female parts so that it could fertilize itself without any help from the outside, correct?
Correct. Yes, correct.
All right.
But I would still has two different structures in it.
Right.
And pollen is only ripe for a short while, of a few minutes, maybe a few hours in one day. And the stigmatic surface where that pollen has to move to is only receptive, will only accept the pollen for a short period of time. And so you want those two things in order for the flower to pollinate itself. Those two things have to happen at the same time. And that's where temperature comes in. When the temperature is too low, the parts grow at a different rate, and the pollen ripens at a different time. Then the stigmatic surface is ready to receive it. When it's too hot, the other way around. The parts grow too fast, grow right past each other before they are both ready, before the stigmatic surface is receptive and the pollen is also ready to be moved. The temperature regulates the rate of the activity in that flower, and if it happens in the right rate, then you get a fruit. If it happens at the wrong rate, cold temperatures mean slower, warm temperatures mean faster. If it happens at the wrong rate, then the flower does not pollinate.
I would think that there has to be some sort of momentum for the male part of the flower to get to the female part of the flower, and I would think in normal situations it would be a wind or a breeze might be able to do that. But if that pepper plant is so crammed in with other plants that the wind can't get through them, that might inhibit that pollination.
Yes, that's very true. Movement, plants are native to outdoors, and they are used to moving in the wind and when animals brush past them and all that sort of stuff. And so, yes, if they're jammed in there and can't move, then that movement won't happen. And that movement is helpful to the pollination, to the transfer of pollen. Having insects visit the flowers to get the nectar, which is typically what they want. They happen to transfer pollen, but they're there for the nectar. Having insects there shakes the plant as well. Spacing the plants correctly, and peppers should be about 18 inches apart. If you're going to keep them a long time, you may want them 3 feet apart because they can grow to be very large plants. So you want to space them so that they get enough sun, space them so they get enough air movement, and that also helps preventing diseases like leaf spot diseases. And you want to have things around flowers, preferably like zinnias, for instance, flowers that attract the insects that will come and look for the nectar. They're not necessarily pepper pollinators, but when they're in there looking for the nectar, they're shaking that plant around, and that's helpful.
I think when you actually buy pepper plants or you start pepper plants from seed on the instruction packets, it will tell you how far apart those particular plants should be spaced. In fact, let me reach over here. Come over here. To my box of seeds, and let me find my stack of pepper seeds. Oh, parsnips. I got to plant those. And here's a packet from Renee's garden of her sweet bell peppers. And very extensive instructions on the back of the packet. And in Renee's garden pepper packets, they mentioned to plant out 2 to 2.5 feet apart into rich soil in full sun. So that seems reasonable.
Wow.
2 to 2.5 feet is she's not the taskmaster you are with 3 feet, and nor is she the lenient father like I am, who plants peppers 18 inches apart, wishing now I had planted them 2 feet apart.
I read some advice that suggested start them out at 18 inches apart. And then if you have a long growing season and these peppers are going to mature into big plants, remove every other one halfway through the season.
Oh, yeah, like somebody's going to do that.
Right. It's a very difficult thing to do because you have this lovely producing plant to just go in and whack it out. So and spacing may also depend on where you are. In very, very hot places, I like to plant the peppers more close together because they shade each other. And a problem with peppers in a hot, sunny place is that they can become sunburned. In places that are more humid and don't get quite as hot, then I space them further apart because you want the air to flow through and dry the leaves off. So it depends. The spacing can depend on where you are.
Debbie Flower, we solved somebody's pepper problems, I think. Thanks for your help on this.
Oh, you're so welcome.